here to discuss all things NRL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings, salutations, and yes, shed heads, welcome back to Outside the Sheds. I know it's been a while since you've heard these pearly pipes of your Shedadamus as he traveled to the Midwest here in the divided states of America. But I have returned. I've returned on a strong chariot, and that chariot right now, Shedheads, is taking us right towards destination finals. Now that's exciting. I know we're all pretty excited about that. But there's a lot of things to go through. First off, I want to really talk about where I've been. I've been up in Nebraska. I've been doing, how should I say this? I have a nonprofit called the Gene Jackson Foundation in honor of my mother. And I actually had my first child that I took to the College Baseball World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. And to say that it was an incredible event, I really can't put to words how much it exceeded all of that. I had an incredible family. Emily and Gigi being the daughter, Emily, the Anaveros family. It was really, really, really special, and I am so happy that they took, the chance to come up there and be a part of this incredible event, and it means the world to me that they enjoyed their time, because I think it was as much a healing process for me and Mrs. Shedadamus as it was for them. So that's where I've been. It was an incredible time. I've come back. I'm rejuvenated. I'm ready to start this thing back up again. And what better episode and time to start back up outside the sheds than to recap State of Origin 3, the bonfire that happened up at Suncorp Stadium. It was something special. It was something special, and maybe the best game of footy that I've seen for a long time. And the great part about that was, we got to see that game after we got done seeing some other footy for this week. Not as incredible as the Warriors match a couple weeks ago, which to me was maybe the best regular season footy game I've seen, the Warriors and the Bulldogs a couple weeks ago. But State of Origin 3, it had so many different levels to it. It had so many backstories about it. But something happened that we haven't seen since 1985. The Blues going up to the Couldron, which is Suncorp Stadium. Again, a stadium that I have not seen a game live in yet, which I will change because my bucket list is shifting and things are moving up to the front since I'm knocking things off the list. But they go up and win their first deciding match in the series since 1985. I wasn't even watching the game then, and I have to admit that I did not really expect the Blues to be able to go into Suncorp and actually go toe-to-toe with the Maroons in physicality, one, but also still keep that bully mentality they had from the game 2 down in Melbourne. And I think that really was the precedent, because a lot of people have said and brought up something, and that is, should have the Blues swept State of Origin this year? Because if it wasn't for the hit on by Joseph Suaalii, it wouldn't have happened. That I will say this right now: if Joseph Suaalii does not take out Reece Walsh, I think the Blues possibly could have swept the series. That is how strong of a game they played. And I think that follows all the way through up to Game 3. It was maybe some of the most intense, brutal, hard-hitting action that I've seen, maybe in a full 40 minutes of footy in my history of watching the game. And that's 14-plus years. So that, to me, tells you everything about what we experienced. It was something that I think that is going to go down as one of the best Origin matches we've seen for a very, very long time. But the great thing about it, when you have a match that is so great that is going to live through the test of time, both teams have to come to the table with their best stuff. And that is what we got to experience. The Blues and the Maroons both put on defensive performances. And let's talk about the Maroons. They go into half up 2-0, and they have almost over 100 more tackles than the Blues in the first half. Now, coming into halftime with a 2-0 lead when you've been tackling and defending your line for as much as they did says a lot about their mental toughness. Just because they lost this series takes nothing away from what Billy Slater's done making and keeping the Maroons a juggernaut, right? But the human body is the human body. And you can't have more than 100 tackles more than your opponent and still think that you're going to still be the same team in the 70th minute, the 65th minute. It just can't happen. The human body will break down. And that is kind of what I think culminated in the second half. Now, I want to talk about a couple key players to this match. And I think one of the big ones is the X Factor, right? Everyone talks about the X Factor. And when Billy did not go with David Fafita and he put Kalen Ponga to come off the bench, a lot of people thought that X Factor strike that Kalen Ponga was going to bring was going to be the deciding factor that probably took the Maroons over the top, right? And I agree that was a possibility. But the thing is, it's state of origin. And yes, Kalen Ponga's had some incredible matches before in the series. But I don't understand why Billy thought that Game 3 was going to be any different than Game 2 and it was going to be a brutal physical affair, right? That's myself why I would have had David Fafita on the bench, because I think they needed that extra physical player that they could have plugged back in there and done what he needed to do, right? So anyway, Ponga comes in, and right away they put him, kind of in the 13-ish jersey, and he's kind of playing the middle of the field, right? So they can keep Reese Walsh back at fullback. And he had a couple good touches of the ball, but it just didn't come off like I think the way that Billy wanted it to. And yes, he tried to do a couple things, and maybe there was a bad read where they didn't go to his side of the field one time, but I just didn't see, and I almost didn't feel that Kalen Ponga had been back long enough to all of a sudden get thrust into state of origin. Now, to me, the real X factor of that match was not Kalen Ponga. It was Connor Watson. I think he was the true X factor. He provided a real spark for the Blues, and he came in at the dummy half position. I think we've watched him now during the regular season now. He's almost supplanted the hectic cheese in the fullback position at the Roosters. Because even though the cheese does what the cheese does, I myself feel that they play the better footy when Connor Watson is at 9. I think he gets the team flowing. He gets them moving a lot quicker. A lot of people forget that, the first time I watched Connor Watson was at the Auckland Nines when he led the Roosters to the Auckland Nines championship, right? And I thought this was going to be the next really good halfback. Now, the funny thing about it is Connor Watson has more of a rugby union background, right? So he is physical. He plays probably bigger than his size. He tackles very, very securely. Somehow he still keeps his head up, after, long periods of time, even with that mustache on his upper lip, which is quite impressive. But there's just something special about him. And I think he provided that, because if you remember the try that kind of started to separate the teams, if his aggression and his spark does not continue and just dives on the ball and just holds it, Jerome Luai doesn't break out on his big run to set up Brandon Best for the try, right? But instead, Connor Watson, again, with that rugby union mentality of just keep the play moving, made sure he shuffled the ball out to Luai instead of just diving on it. And that, to me, is X-Factor stuff. That, to me, is stuff that separates and keeps a team that is probably a lot more fresh because of the not as many tackles in the first half. And it enables the Blues to finally take and ride that crest, that little bit less lactic acid in the legs, and takes them over the top. Let's not even talk about Romy. I'm saying Jarome Luai, this guy, takes so much flack from the rugby league world because he is a little different and he does it his own way, right? He's an agitator at times. We already know about that, about what happened in the first half. But that is kind of what Luai brings to the table. And I think that's why the West Tigers fans are so happy about him coming to the team the next season. But he's still got unfinished business with the Panthers. So, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But it was something, and I take it to this next topic that I want to talk about the game, and that is the little Donnybrook that broke out between DCE and Jarome Luai. Come on, folks. Shedheads, it's origin, all right? It is the most hard-hitting 3 games that the rugby league world sees every year, right? So you can't go into a game 3. You can't go into a game 3 with the whole talk was that the Maroons got bullied in Melbourne and not think that this isn't going to bubble over, okay? Suncorp is called the Couldron for a reason. Things bubble up. The fans bubble up. Everyone gets a little bit more amped up and excited. So when that event happens and Luai and DCE come together and both of them didn't back down, had some words for themselves, the problem that we got from that event was when it got taken into the Maroons bench. And that is when the moment happens that everyone keeps talking about, and that is the contrary conduct charges that happened to Cameron Murray and Olakau'atu. Now, a couple things about this. I know you shouldn't leave your bench. I'm not saying that is something that I condone. But at the same time, Cameron Murray came in there. He saw that one of his players is in the other team's dugout, locker room, backdoor, sheds, whatever you want to say. And his job was to get his guy out of there. Now, the one thing that they've talked about time and time again is Madge has been speaking about team, and not letting down your fellow man, right? That's it. That's what they've been preaching. So you think that Cameron Murray, who's also the captain of the Rabbitohs, is going to allow his player to get trucked and then all of a sudden surrounded by the opponent? No. Now, I can understand that the league does not want that type of thing to happen, but it's state of origin, and I'd let it roll. That is me. But I'm also the guy that likes the biff. I also am the guy in hockey that lets the guys go so I don't have a bunch of spearing. So, yes, I can understand it, but here's where my real problem happens. All right, fine. You send the guys both off for 10 minutes. Kafusi, him, send him off. But my problem is that Murray and Olakau'atu are now getting a 2-week suspension during the regular season. I think state of origin is a sacrifice enough to the NRL clubs that let their teams, get decimated by their all-stars to go off and represent their state, that it isn't fair to take guys out of the regular season for a suspension that happens in state of origin. My feeling is if that's how we're going to do it, then Cameron Murray and Olakau'atu need to sit out 2 games for state of origin. That means that they only come back for game 3 next year. But I don't think it should have repercussions in the NRL world. And that's where I think we're missing the boat here. This is what I feel is a real problem that needs to be looked at. And so, the event didn't have a problem with me whatsoever, the incident. I probably wouldn't have even sent the guys off. But if you're going to send the guys off, let it end there. Let it just end with 10 minutes and be good with it. Be done with it, right? Instead of always feeling like you've got to be the principal and break out the paddle for these guys. They're grown men. They know what they're a part of. They know what they've signed up for. But 2 months, a 2-week ban is over the top in so many different ways for me. But we're going to talk about Judiciary and all this type of stuff later down when we get to the 40-20 because I've got more problems with it. Now, let's talk about the feel-good. The feel-good that I really had was seeing Angus Crichton receive the Wally Lewis medal. To me, this guy has been through so much. A lot of people forget, just a few weeks ago, he was almost being shown the door by the Roosters because the Roosters were chasing David Fifita. Let's also not forget that mental health was something that Angus Crichton was going through a little while ago too. And I think when you get one of these feel-good stories, and we have this every so often in sports, and it's something that we really need to hold on to and cherish, when you see a guy get in some really dark places. And Shedheads, let's be honest, since the pandemic and the world shut down, everybody's come out of it different in their own way. And if you haven't come out any different, you might want to look at yourself in the mirror. So everybody has come out of this a little bit different. And Angus Crichton came out of it and really second-guessed himself a lot about something he loves and the sport that he loves. And to see the joy on that man's face after he received the medal, after they led, the Blues to winning at Suncorp, the decider, to lift the shield, to bring the shield back to New South Wales. It was something very, 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 very special, and it meant the world to me to see that. And let me put it this way: if the game was reversed and Angus Crichton played for the Maroons, and these events happened for him, then I'd be just as happy for him. This isn't about any side with me. This is about a young man who has gone to dark places and has now come back and has really seen the light. And somebody said something about Angus Crichton saying, I don't think we've even seen the best of him yet. And it's going to be interesting to see, after winning the Wally Lewis medal, winning and bringing the shield home, what this does for Angus Crichton to finish the season with the Roosters. Does he come in just like a force of nature and just put the team on his back and just carry them all the way to a championship? And that is something I'm very, 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 very interested to see how it plays out for the rest of the season for him. But kudos, applause, confetti, whatever you want to say, to a job well done, Angus Crichton, and to that much deserved Wally Lewis medal, because he was the thing to me. He was that force that kind of brought on that bullying, the physical, the intimidation. He just really lived up to that part. And it was really good to see him kind of embrace that physicality that I know that he can bring to the game. So congratulations to Angus Crichton on winning the Wally Lewis medal. It, to me, really showed everything that we needed to about the series. Now, Shedheads, I know your Shedadamus sometimes gets on a roll. I know sometimes I have my opinions. That's why you listen to this show, because I do have my opinions. And I hope when I have my opinions, you don't always have to agree with it, but you have to hear my side of it. You listen to my take and you go with it and you accept it how you do. And I was really, really tough on the naming of Michael Maguire as the Blues head coach. I didn't think that he ended that relationship with the Kiwis well. I think I still remember just the tumultuous nature the entire time he was with the Tigers. I remember the incident when he benched Benji Marshall, which I think was the downhill swoon that kind of sunk the Tiger ship with him being there after a big win up at Suncorp Stadium when they beat the Broncos a few years ago. But I am the first man to stand up and say that I was wrong. And I was wrong about that in a lot of different ways, because Madge Maguire did a hell of a job as the head coach for the Blues. And I don't know, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a big Brad Fittler fan, but I don't know if the Blues win Game 3, even with the same team that was on the field, if Freddie Fittler is running the team. And the reason I say that is because the Blues took on the persona of Madge Maguire. A little chippy, hard-nosed, in your face, but at the same time, the one thing Madge brings to the table all the time is he backs his players, right? He's usually upfront and honest, and he backs his players. His players have never had the feeling that is Madge in my corner or not. That is not what Madge McGuire does. He stands behind his players. And, that Blues locker room, with him bringing back the old boys and really kind of forcing that issue of the whole state of New South Wales is behind this team. We are the team that represents New South Wales. And he kept pushing that narrative, bringing guys in to speak to the club. And I think that what he really, really did was he galvanized that group to almost becoming what the Queensland fans and the Queensland team always says about we're doing this for our state. It's all about us. It's all about, the camaraderie of this team and blah, 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 blah that we hear all the time out of the Queensland side. And I think that's what Madge brought in. And one of the things that was said afterwards is that I don't think we can say anymore after this last Origin series that they want it more than us. And I think that's what Madge really, really was trying to strike home with this team, was that he really was trying to have them believe that this means the world to them, that they would do anything. They would go through a burning building. They would just fight as hard as they could to get that trophy, that trophy was everything. And from the beginning, when he picked Dylan Edwards over Teddy, even though Teddy ended up playing game one because the Dylan Edwards injury, he went back to Dylan Edwards. And I even was talking, I remember on a previous episode, that I would have possibly stayed with Teddy. And this was nothing against Dylan Edwards. I just think Teddy is still got a lot of game left in him. But he went with him. And that's what he said from the beginning, that he wanted Dylan Edwards. He thought it was his time, and he went with him. And what does Dylan Edwards do? He becomes the man of the match for Game 3. Even after we find out that he had a niggling knee injury that's going to cost him 2 to 4 weeks, which we'll get into a little bit later. He pushed all of the right buttons and really got that team to play like I think we've always thought a New South Wales club could play like. And I just don't know, no matter how much I like Brad Fittler, if Brad Fittler is hard-edged enough in bringing that freaking just that tenacity and that raw aggression that is needed to actually beat a Maroons club in State of Origin. So to me, I'm so excited for next year to see how Billy tweaks it, how Billy handles, because that was another big thing. When Freddie was in there, he never made it about him against Billy, but Madge bringing up the glass houses and really just seemed to unsettle Billy a little bit. Now, I think Billy Slater is cooler than the other side of the pillow most of the time, but he had to answer questions that normally weren't asked him about calls he made and stuff about himself and character, right? Freddie just left everything on the field. Like, he didn't want to get into any of that type of stuff there, right? But Madge is all about the wrestle behind the microphone, the wrestle behind the scenes, playing the mind games, the wars. And you know what? It played out. It panned out for the team. So I have to sit up here and be a bigger man and admit that I got it wrong. Madge McGuire getting the best possible players he can. He didn't have to coach a bunch of guys up. He even admitted that, the practices leading up to Game 3, he just got to step back a lot because the type of player he had in Origin camp pretty much dictated and led from the front. So kudos again to the Blues, kudos to Madge McGuire, but kudos to all of us who got to experience maybe one of the greatest games we've seen in the last 10 years of State of Origin. The physicality of, if you like a physical sport, this is the game that I will show a lot of my friends and people as I try to bring them into this rugby league world of what the game really is, because that to me is what I want to see. And there wasn't much about that game that I got upset about. Like I said, I think the whole tussle that happened between DC and Luai and some of the repercussions of that I would change. But besides that, 100% well done. Again, you know something's good when you're already looking forward to next year in State of Origin, and that's where we're at. So great State of Origin series, and can't wait for 2025. Now, Shedheads, let's go to round 19. Let's go over a couple of the scores. Dolphins 36, Rabbitohs 28. The Fins snap a 2-game losing streak and win the Wayne Bennett Bowl. That's right, I call it the Wayne Bennett Bowl because, Wayne is kind of pulling strings at both clubs, if you know what I mean. Sharks 58, Tigers 6. Even with Nico Hines, the Sharks take out their losing streak frustration over, I don't even know what you want to call the Tigers in that match. It was a pretty brutal match to watch. Ronaldo Mulatalo, getting his hat trick, but it just was not a great scene if you're a Tigers fan to have to experience. Titans 24, Eels 16, 3 on the trot for the Titans. This surging group up there of the Gold Coast. And the Eels, to me, look like a team that are so ready for the season to be over with. Besides Blaise Talangi, they just look tired. And I think that a lot of the things behind the scenes that none of us will really know, losing their coach, having Jason Riles now named as the new head coach for next season, what is going to happen to Trent Barrett? I think it's just too much. And I think the Eels are going to be very, very, very happy when this next 6 to 7 weeks finishes up. Dragons 30, Broncos 26. Tuipulotu scores a hat trick. Broncos' playoff chances begin to get snuffed. And I hate to say it that way, but the Brisbane Broncos are probably going to have to win 6 of their 7 last games to make the playoffs. We're going to go into this whole breakdown of the whole playoff look and see where all the teams are sitting right now here in a matter of moments. But just not a good sign right now for the Brisbane Broncos and the fans up in Brisbane. And finally, Sea Eagles 44, Knights 6. Even without DC and Jake Travojevic, the Sea Eagles, led by Jason the Ferrari Saab and Hapawate, they really took it to the Knights. And I know the Knights were missing Gagai and Bradman Best and Kalen Ponga, but that was really disappointing. And I looked at the inside the box at Adam O'Brien a couple times, and the look on his face was my team just didn't show up today. My team knew they were missing, 3 of their best players and just thought they had no chance at all against Manly, and they played that way, which was very disappointing because I do enjoy watching the Knights play. I do enjoy watching them sometimes, I think, feel overachieve, especially the last few weeks without Kalen Ponga. They've played some incredible footy still to still be in this whole race to make the playoffs. So good victory by the Sea Eagles. Really showed a lot without 2 of their main stars being at the club. Now, Shedheads, I could talk about some of these matches. I could talk about some of the players in these matches. But we all make some decisions that we could call questionable in our lives. We all make decisions where we regret making them. To me, that is what the NRL Judiciary has done with a call that happened in the Sharks match against the Tigers. The Judiciary has come back and given a grade 2 contrary conduct charge to the Cronulla fullback Will Kennedy because during the match, Will Kennedy was exploding up to take a pass and he ran over Adam G. Ran him over and did not get the pass, which probably would have been an easy try because of the speed that Will Kennedy has. But he was accelerating because it was a breakout play, right? Adam G running the wrong direction, I guess he was running the direction the play was going, has to know the line he's running. He has to know the line he's running. And he was in the wrong place. And he got trucked. And let's think about Will Bubba Kennedy for a second. He's not anywhere close to the biggest guy on the field. He's one of the smallest guys always on the field, week in and week out. And they're going to call and give him a suspension for doing something. And the crazy part about it is Adam G and the NRL both admit that Adam G was in the wrong place, that he was in the midst of the play. But the NRL is trying to come out and say right now that players have to understand that referees are on the field. Well, that is great. I understand that. I have no problem with the referee being on the field. I'm all about respecting the referee. But the referee has to respect the game too, and he can't be in the way. He just can't. And you know how we handle that in the NFL over here in America? Or in college football? Your gridiron for you folks over there overseas. He gets run over. And then what happens? The play finishes. He gets picked up by his either fellow officials or usually it's players that help him back up on his feet. The guy that just trucked him usually walks over, checks on him, sees if he's all right, apologizes to him. He says, no big deal. And away we go, right? I've never seen an official in the NFL run over that hasn't gotten back up and almost hasn't apologized to the player for being in the way. All right, so we're going to say we want to protect our officials. Okay, I have no problem. If somebody pushes the official, if somebody calls names to the official, if somebody gets in the official's face, no problem. You make that call. If you want to suspend him, that's fine. But for William Kennedy to get a suspension for running over an official that's in the way, to me is asinine. It is ridiculous. It just, I don't know. Sometimes I start to think that the NRL Judiciary makes calls almost like the bunker just to become a part of the game. I would be happy if we didn't even know the NRL Judiciary or the bunker even existed, because it has done things to me that have really, it's affected teams. And what I mean by that is, you don't think the Sharks are going to miss Bubba Kennedy for the next, game or so? Hell yeah, they're going to miss him. It's going to be a huge hole that they're going to have. And that's my problem with it. If somebody gets injured or if there's real malice in something happening, I have no problem with that. But keep it moving. If this is nobody's injured, and even if it does, if Adam G, I don't know if you guys remember, this was even before I was watching the game live, but an official one time got kneed in the head, right? And he got knocked out. But he kind of fell over, he got knocked over, and another player kneed him in the head as they were running full out, right? There was no suspensions then. There were no banning of the player. It is unfortunate in the game that we're playing, but if you're out there amongst a bunch of raging bulls, sorry, Gordy Tallis, you better put yourself in the right position or you're going to get trucked. And so I really have a problem with this. When I saw that Bubba got is facing a ban, a suspension, I couldn't believe it. I think as much as the NRL is branching out and trying to come overseas and is trying to get the game expanded around the world, this is just not stuff that can happen. We're already having problems with players laying down and faking injury and grabbing at necks and trying to get calls, which to me is so not a rugby league type of thing that should happen, right? And we don't want this game to turn into soccer. And I know the Euros just finished, but I can't even watch the game anymore for these guys acting like they get shot with sniper rifles, right? But we're right on that cusp of watching these young players that we have that are watching the game now know, hey, if I just lay here for a little bit, maybe I'll get a call instead of getting up and playing the ball. But this whole world is in a slippery slope right now, but this is something that I think that the judiciary just needs to let move on. And there wasn't even a penalty called during the game. I don't know. I'm really upset by it. I'm really troubled by it. And, the only thing I can say is the judiciary needs to do better. But again, Graham Ansley stood up there for 15 minutes trying to defend why they're, making this call. So I don't know if they just don't get it. I don't know if they don't care or if they're just trying to set precedent. But it's the wrong type of precedent for me, Shedheads. And it's really upsetting for me to think about and to see a player who did nothing wrong getting a suspension. So I'm going to leave it at that. Let's go into the 40-20. Shedheads, I've been gone. We already talked about it, told you where I was at. But some of the news that is broken while I've been on my hiatus has brought such joy to me right now. And that is, and you know where I'm going with this, Vegas 2025. I was there. I enjoyed it. Talked to the Raging Bull, hung out with Maddie. It was an incredible few days, right? And I knew that there was going to be some things, because we're always going to tweak things. Things are always going to get tweaked to make it a little bit better, make people even more excited. But I think I've told you guys, one of the cool things last year that I really, really enjoyed was there was quite a few English Super League fans that were there. And there wasn't even a Super League team there. And so I was thinking maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll have the champions play each other there. I didn't know, right? But these games that have been named right now, we're getting a Super League match. We're getting a women's test match, and we're getting four of the most exciting clubs in the NRL and fan bases. So we'll still keep a Sydney Derby in there. It is wow to say that the powers that be, they set this whole thing up. We're excited about naming this and announcing this is a bloody understatement, because they knocked this out of the park. And to think that we're going to get a quadruple header at the Death Star, we're going to be there all day. It's going to be, listen, I said this to some people that we're not going to talk about, some people I've been talking to lately, but they're going to break beer sales at the Death Star. And let me tell you something right now. For people to outdrink Raider fan, and we're not talking Canberra Raiders, we're talking Oakland, Los Angeles, Las Vegas Raiders fans, the Pirates, the Black Hole. The NRL is about ready, and Super League is about ready to crush beer sales. They better back the trucks up, because 4 games, 2 things better be on call. A lot of alcohol and a lot of police. Because to have a fan base that we have in rugby league world, to have a lot of hours, 4 matches, to live off some libations, it is going to be quite extraordinary to watch everybody walk out of that stadium at that end of that night. It's going to be something to behold, and I'm going to have my camera phone ready. And as the great Terrell Owen said, I probably won't have any popcorn because I'll probably have eaten it inside the stadium. But it is going to be eventful. But let's go over this setup. Game 1 of this extravaganza is going to be a Super League battle. The Wigan Warriors versus the Warrington Wolves. That's right, Sammy Burgess's Warrington Wolves. It is going to be epic. We're talking about 2 clubs that already don't like each other going toe-to-toe in Vegas. The fan bases that these clubs are going to bring over, too, is going to be something to behold. Wow. This is going to be, and that's to kick off the day, is to have Wigan against Warrington. It is, wow. Again, I'm almost lost at a loss for words for what that's going to be like. Then we get the Raiders versus the Warriors. Those 2 teams always play incredible matches against each other. But we get up the waz against Sticky's boys in Vegas. Ricky Stewart's going to be in the same building as the Shedadamus in the Death Star. I can't think of a better guy to be in the Death Star but Sticky. It is going to be awesome. Then we get the women's test match. Australia against England. Like I said, I'm expecting Australia to run away with it, with Jess Sturgis and the girls, the ladies taking it to the Palms. It is going to be something to behold. But I'm so happy that the ladies are going to be able to show the brand of footy that they play. It's a fun brand of footy. There's not all the wrestling in the tackle. They make the tackle, they get up, get their 10, and come back forward. So that is going to be fun to watch. And then we get a Sydney Derby to close it out. Nathan Cleary, possibly with that still snively whiplash mustache on his upper lip, against hopefully a healthy Nico Hines and the Cronulla Sharks to be the nightcap. Wow. It is going to be an epic event. It's going to be an epic few days. I think they're already saying that events are going to start on Wednesday to lead into the Saturday, extravaganza. But I will tell you, your Shedadamus will be there from the opening whistle to the end, and I will be there the few days before. I just told you earlier that I'm a big college baseball fan, and it just got named that there is going to be a baseball heritage type classic where the Texas Longhorns, Texas Tech, I think Illinois, and one other club is actually going to be playing in Vegas at that same time period. So that is going to be cool to see. Wow. I just can't get over how cool this is going to be. And I'm going to be there. So hopefully, I think tickets go on sale next week. And so, Shedheads, all around the world, get your popcorn and get your wallets ready, because it's time to buy some tickets. It's time to show out. It's time to break that 42,000 we had in Vegas last year. Let's get it going. Let's make this an event that everyone's talking about in the sporting world, because I'm going to be there, and I think that we can up what we had last year as well. Now, heading into the last part of the season, here's the current NRL ladder heading into round 20. We've got the Storm on top at 32 points, followed by the Panthers at 2 with 28. At 3, the Roosters at 26 points. At 4, the Sharks at 26 points. At 5, the Bulldogs at 24 points. At 6, the Dolphins, fins up, at 24 points. 7, the Sea Eagles at 23 points. 8, Cowboys at 22. 9, Dragons at 22. 10, Knights at 20. 11, Raiders at 20. 12, Warriors at 19. 13, Broncos at 18 points. 14, Titans at 18 points. 15, the Rabbitohs at 18 points. 16, Eels at 12. And 17, and coming and pulling in last at Caboose, Tigers at 12. We've got a tight race, and it is going to be so important for these clubs to put their best teams on the field. And we're going to talk about that here shortly. But we've got 4 points separating 9th spot from 4th spot. That's how close this is right now. You cannot afford to go on a 3 or 4 game losing streak right now if you're going to make the 8. And I think right now the magic number to get into the finals is to get 13 wins. That's a lot of clubs that are still fighting for 13 wins. This last part of the season is going to be can't miss television. It really will be. Because there's so many clubs that feel that they can get on a streak. You look at the Titans right now. And the Titans, I picked them to finish in the 8th, but they started the season so bad. But you've got a Titans club who's sitting with 18 points. They're only 4 points out of a playoff position. And they're playing some incredible footy right now. Desi's got them flowing and believing in themselves. Brimson just came back last week. And I think if that team can stay healthy, Kieran Foran just signing another 1-year contract. Jaden Campbell kicking the ball down as straight as you possibly can. It is going to be some good stuff that we're going to experience. So that has me excited. But to finish this season, I think that the most important thing is, like I said, putting the best possible team on the field right now. And right now we've got some players coming back, and we've got some players that are leaving their clubs in some dire straits right now. But let's go into some of the key losses and key returns coming up. We've got Nathan Keary coming back this week, Jamal Fogarty coming back this week, and Ben Travojevic coming back this week. All will bolster their clubs and get them back. I'm saying that Jamal Fogarty is going to really calm down that halves, and he's going to let Ethan Strange just start to run again instead of having to try to set things up as much. So some big inclusions in the club. Now, unfortunately, we've got some key losses, though, for some clubs that this would really maybe be the season for them. And the number one, to me, is Mitchell Moses with that ruptured bicep that he got in the last few minutes of the State of Origin Game 3. It's the season. And to think that the Eels were already in trouble, without Mitchell Moses, we saw how they played this season without Mitch. So, I can't guarantee the wooden spoon, but you have to think that the Eels might be really pushing the Tigers for that spoon with the loss of Mitchell Moses. Dylan Edwards playing that, the whole pretty much State of Origin Game 3 with a little niggle to his knee. We find out it's a PCL injury. 2 to 4 weeks, he's going to be on the sidelines. And I bet you the Panthers, knowing how Ivan is with his players, I bet you we see Dylan Edwards out for 3 weeks. Ewan Aitken for the Finns, torn pec, another season-ending injury. Tohu Harris, wrist, season injury for the Warriors. Charles Nickel Klokstad, calf. They have no determining table yet on how long he's going to be out. The only good news for the Warriors is I think we're going to see the guy who I would have been playing in the fullback position anyway. RTS will be playing in that one jersey probably. Marcelo Montoya, groin, again, still to be determined how long he's going to be out for with that injury. For the Tigers, Appy Curacao, calf. They're thinking that Appy might have been able to play this week, but I bet you they rest him a week. So he's going to be out at least 1 week for the Tigers. Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. Really sad story how he tore his ACL after just getting back on the field. He's done for the season for the Sharkies. Nico Hines. This is the real one that I think could really cost the Sharkies. But Nico Hines, syndesmosis rupture. We're looking 8 to 10 weeks, which means that probably does not bring Nico back until the finals. So that could be a key blow to the chances for up Cronulla to really do some things in the back half of the season. And then finally, Jamin Salmon, a jaw fracture, 6 weeks. He is out for the Penny Panthers. So as you can see, the war of attrition in rugby league really starts to show its head right now. Some clubs are getting stronger. Some clubs are really going to be in trouble with these key losses that they're going to experience going forward. Now, I don't like to end with negative news, Shedheads. I like positivity. And some of the positivity that we're going to go with right now is a player saying, I'm done, and then all of a sudden saying, I'm not. And that player would be Luke Keary. Luke Keary has canceled his retirement plans. You can stop sending him cakes. You can stop giving him cards of niceness. Luke Keary is going to the Super League, and he's just signed a 2-year deal to play with the Catlins Dragons, and he will be joined there by Raider captain Elliot Whitehead, who's making a return to the Catlins Dragons on a 1-year deal. If you remember, Elliot Whitehead was at Catlins in 2013 to 2015. And he's going back to Perpignan to play for the Dragons. So I think that's really cool. I was a little, I always worry about Luke Keary. You never want to see a guy that takes the injury like he did with the hit to the head, and with some of those concussions. They were kind of scary things to see. But I think he can do some really important things for Catlins. And I know Catlins have been fighting. Mitchell Pearce had him so close to winning a championship. But I think Luke Keary, with the moxie that he brings, with the championship pedigree that he brings, I think he could really get Catlins over the top. And I think him and Elliot Whitehead are some 2 huge signings for the Catlins Dragons. Now let's go into round 20. We've got some key matches. I'm going to be watching a lot of matches as usual. But starting out round 20, Friday night, matter of hours, Warriors and the Raiders. The same match we're going to see in Vegas, Shedheads. We get a little bit of a prelude right now. The Waz needing this victory, but no more than, I guess, the Raiders. I'm going to be very interested to see Jamal Fogarty back with the Green Machine. And I'm going to be really as excited to see RTS hopefully sliding back in that fullback position. But I'm taking the Warriors. I think that I really like this halves pairing that they've got now. Even though Sean Johnson will always be one of my favorite players, Sean needs to run the ball. And right now, we're now finally getting it from this new halves pairing at the Warriors. So I've got the Warriors winning that. Saturday, Tigers versus the Rabbitohs in Gosford. Dom, you better be taking Savio to go see the match. But anyway, Tigers versus Rabbitohs. I got the Rabbitohs. Even with some of the losses, Cam Murray not being there, Latrell probably not playing. I still think the Bunnies are gonna get the chocolates at the end of the day. Broncos versus the Knights. We don't really fully know if Best or Ponga or Gagai will be playing for the Knights, but I just think the Broncos know that they have to right their ship or their season's done. I'd be looking for Ezra Mam to have an incredible match to really get these guys going, and I've got the Broncos over the Knights. Roosters versus the Storm, the match everybody's talking about, that everyone is picking their side. I really feel right now that the Chooks might be playing the best footy of any club right now in the competition. And what better way to Chester Mental than to play the Storm? I am so excited about this match. Shedheads, if you want to watch it live, it's going to be a 5 o'clock a.m. kickoff. So I hope that you got the Sanka on extra caffeine because it's a long match to stay up for. But I think it's going to be easily the match of the round. I'm taking the Chooks. I think the Roosters really have the strike and they're playing the best. I'm taking the Chooks. Sunday, Finns versus the Panthers. It is that time of year. Nathan Cleary's coming back. Even without Dylan Edwards, they'll probably put Dane Laurie back in the fullback position, who also just signed another 1-year extension. I'm taking the Panthers over the Finns. I just think that Black Magic is coming, and they're just going to get themselves fine-tuned for their late playoff push. Titans versus the Sea Eagles at Fortress Brookie. I am taking the Titans. I will tell you something, Shedheads. Some of the most exciting and fun football that I've been watching over the last 3 weeks have been the Gold Coast Titans. Desi's back again, and he's back to his winning ways, conducting like a maestro this club of young guns. I'm excited to watch. Jaden Campbell is playing like a boss there. He's getting some more NBA ink. This team, to me, is going to do something special. And I think in a couple of weeks, people are going to start looking on their resume, going to be looking at their schedule going, oh, man, we've got to play Gold Coast. Because I think they're here. I said this a few weeks ago. I think Gold Coast has the possibility of being that club that could cause some headaches from teams down the stretch. So I've got the Titans beating the boys in Brookvale and beating the Sea Eagles. Bulldogs versus the Cowboys, another match to me that's got a lot of excitement to it because I think you've got two clubs that are playing some incredible footy right now. The Dogs have a lot of belief. Cameron Srola's boys, they just look really, really good. They believe in themselves. They're in 5th spot right now. Gus is feeling good about himself. And I think the Cowboys are finally getting those wheels into 4x4 and are starting to play the footy that we thought they were going to play all season long. But I think since this match is taking place up in away from the dog, how do we say, the dog pound, I've got the Cowboys winning it. I just think that Chad Townsend, knowing this is going to be his last season with the Cowboys, I think Chaddy's going to play some good footy. And I think that the Cows are going to do some things here, and they're going to move up the ladder as the season continues. So I've got the Cows over the Dogs. So let's go over these picks. I got the Warriors, the Rabbitohs, the Broncos, the Chooks, the Panthers, the Titans, and the Cows to round it out. My gun of the week, Ronaldo Mulatalo. One of the most, how do I say this about Ronaldo? First off, he played for America at one of the Rugby League World Cups by every means. So if anybody's got that collector's item of a Ronaldo Mulatalo American Tomahawks jersey, let me know if you want to sell that thing. But 3 tries, 199 running meters, 4 line breaks, 1 line break assist, 7 tackle breaks, and 5 tackles made, and a whole lot of jawing to go along with it too, because Ronaldo likes to spark and to spout a little bit of venom, doesn't he, Shedheads? So, Ronaldo, there you go. Be looking in the mail for my Shedadamus t-shirt. Okay, yeah, you're not getting a t-shirt, Ronaldo, but Shedheads, it's so good to be back with you guys, and I'm so excited. I said excited a lot during this podcast because I've been really just biting at the bit to get back here with you guys, to get into the trenches, to bring this energy back up a little bit. I've missed this. I've missed you guys. So really ingest some rugby league this week. Remember, start talking to the missuses, start talking to the hubbies, start getting that money accrued and saved back, because tickets go on sale, like I said, in 7 days' time, I think, or next week sometime. Don't quote me on that. I know that it's next week. But until next week, Shedheads, treat each other with as much respect as you would like to be treated with. Stay out of trouble. Don't get caught. But until next week, see ya!
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.